Hey everyone, and welcome to the Journal of a Huntsman. Now, today's episode I'm going to be talking about motivations and passions, and before I get into it, I'd just like to thank you all again for checking this out and then sticking around to listen. Hopefully by the end of this, I'll have changed your mind or given you something new to think about. It took me a while to get back and finish this episode because of school and other things that were taking up my time, but now I can get a better schedule, thankfully, with summer here. So starting off, I would like to just define motivation. What is it? Straight from Google, it says that it's the reason or reasons one has for acting or behaving in a particular way. Or it's the general desire or willingness of someone to do something. What strikes me from that second definition is willingness. Like, you're just willing to go through this obstacle course because you know what you have to do, or that what's on the other side is just worth it at the end of the day. What are you willing to do? What motivates you? When I think about it, motivation feels like a word I can almost instinctively recognize or understand. Like it's something that I just feel I should know. But looking at it now, the concept feels almost foreign, or it feels like I'm missing some crucial part about it. Motivation takes so many different forms for a person. They don't always make sense. Some people can be motivated by an experience, or others by other people. Some people are motivated by feelings or material things, but it looks different for all of us. And whatever it is, that will be the reason you have for doing whatever it is that you do. Honestly, I think that motivations are some of the most beautiful things in the world, and paired with passion, they can be some of the most incredible things as well. I love hearing stories about that too. Like what motivates or drives a person has always been something that interests me. Some stories are inspiring, while others, they feel like the very harsh truth and reality that people have had to face. But I love the change that comes from it all, the action that it brings about. What motivates you? Take a second to ask yourself that question. What are you doing, and what's the reason you're doing it? Is it your family or your friends? Maybe it's some place you want to reach before you end up dying. Maybe it's something that you don't want to achieve in life, and that's still pushing you forward some way. Whatever it is, though, I think that it's important to know and understand that thing. For me, going through high school, the biggest things that motivated me were my family and cartoons. I'll get into that. My identity was built very heavily around my identity as one, an older brother, and two, a son. And I think I was a good one at that. And so making my siblings and my mom proud, making sure that I was seen as good in their eyes and I didn't let them down or disappoint them, that was the reason behind why I always tried so hard. That's why I always tried to be my best. Why I always had to try to be an example and show them what's possible and just be the better, whether it be as a person or a student. And cartoons, they motivated me secondly because they were what I inspired to be as well. As I mentioned before in that last episode talking about heroes and monsters, I wanted to be like them when I was younger. I wanted to be strong, selfless, smart, and kind. I wanted to be all of these great things. And so watching or reading about these characters that were like that, it motivated me to be like them, to pursue and keep chasing after that idea. It helped build my identity. And it was passionate. It tied my motivations with my passion, and everything just felt so right, like it was all balanced after that. The two things that I'll kind of talk about are, one, how my family motivated me, and then two, how cartoons were passion for me. It didn't start as a passion, though. It was kind of a motivation at the same time. It just grew into a passion. But I'll get into that later. Now, recently I was thinking about what to say for this episode. It took me a while to get back to this, but I started asking myself what motivates me and really thinking it through. And I did this before I went to bed. It became an actual habit of mine to roughly plan my days before I go to sleep, just telling myself that, hey, tomorrow I'm going to get this done. I'm going to get X, Y, and Z done. It'll be a good day. It'll be awesome. Good vibes only. No horsing around, no nothing. Just stay focused and get what I have to do done. Manifesting productivity into my life, and it felt like it really worked. And now as I was laying down one night, just sitting on my bed, one of my motivations hit me. The thing that I saw at the end of the tunnel, the reason for why I did so much, why I still do so much, was a family. Someday I'm going to have a family, and I want to be able to live a life that's good with them, and I want to be happy. I want to have a wife and kids someday in the future, a career and a life that I could feel proud of and content with. These are still my motivations now. They are my reasons for everything. for going to school, for learning about things like taxes and insurance and real estate, building skill sets, growing skills, and most importantly, growing as a person, growing as me. My family, both in the present and in the future, remain one of the biggest motivations for everything that I do. As I said before, it took me a long time to figure out what to say for this episode. Just speaking about motivation and passion, being honest and open about what they are. I had to ask myself the same question basically every night for maybe 4 weeks before I went to bed. Sometimes I just find myself thinking about it throughout the day, trying to figure out the best way to say this all, for it to make sense and for it to make sense to me as well. And one day it hit me as I was driving home for Mother's Day to see my family again, actually, all of them, because this was the first time that my brother was back in over 3 months. It started to all make sense to me as I was just driving on the freeway, just loud music playing. The windows were rolled down and blowing around me, and it hit. Motivation, like Google described, it's the reason why. It's the reason that you wake up every morning, bright and early, and get the day started. It's why so many of us are grueling through 4 years of school just for a degree and a load of information we can get off, say, the internet or at a library ourselves. It's why we push ourselves each day to go a little bit further. Why when we fall, we tell ourselves to get back up. Motivation can be the thing that pushes you forward and also the thing that you can fall back onto when you're pushed back. For me, my motivations are my family, both in the present and future, as I stated. And honestly, I'm motivated to be the best brother, son, and when the time comes, husband and father that I can be. I'm motivated to be a great man because I didn't see a lot of them when I was growing up. I'm motivated to be strong because when I was a kid, I thought I was weak. If someone asked me why I do what I do, why I try so hard, why I wish to be kind, why I work out, why I want to learn more, why I want to be the best, be different, I'd tell them honestly that anything less just doesn't interest me. Life's too short to not enjoy, but also not to give anything besides my best effort into what I wish. My family pushes me forward, yes, but there's another thing that's pulling me forward as well. I didn't mention it, but it's tugging me along constantly. And these things, both my motivations and that other force that's pulling me along, these things would be my answer. I'm motivated to act that way by these things. They help define me and they feel like the force that's pushing me forward whenever I hit a rut. It took time to ask myself these things and figure it all out, but speaking about it now, I feel very at peace. Like I kind of understand myself on another level because I'm able to speak about it and just talk it through. Now, I've talked about motivations. It took 8 minutes to talk about motivations. I tried fleshing out the concept and then explaining how I see it myself, but moving on to the other subject, the subject that I'm most excited about, it's passion. If I described motivation, as the reason why you overcome great obstacles or do so many hard things, passion would be the reason that makes those hard things seem easy. Somebody I know described it for me this way. Motivation is like the engine and passion is like the gas. And I like that visualization, but it still feels off to me. How I see it is, if motivation is a fire that burns steadily and firm with proper fuel, it's the wall that you can fall back on and that will push you to go forward after falling down. Passion will be the fire that burns endlessly and bright with hot intensity. It's not the thing pushing you forward, but pulling you forward instead. It's making you run after it because you want to move, because you want to. Passion requires a much stronger desire than motivation, and your willingness to face obstacles is just taken up to a whole other level. Now that I'm thinking of it, it's kind of funny because I feel like whenever I think about passion, it's always symbolized with fire. Never any other element or form of nature. Passion burns, and it burns hot. It's intense and beautiful, but also scary at times. Passion is the thing that makes all of the great obstacles that you overcame by being motivated seem smaller. It makes the boulders in your way seem like pebbles. It makes the walls surrounding you seem more like fences. The trenches blocking your way seem more like dips. When you're passionate about something, you don't care. It doesn't matter how hard something is or how stupid you may look doing it. It doesn't matter how much time you need to put into it to get it done. You do whatever it is you're doing because you love to do it. And sometimes it may overtake you. That's how it works for me. You may find yourself smiling uncontrollably, becoming far more invested in the task. Maybe going above and beyond when you thought your effort would be mediocre at best. And Google, going back to Google, it defines passion as being a strong and barely controllable emotion. It's one of the most accurate definitions that I could think of. It's simple and straightforward, and while it misses a few things, in my opinion, it hits the main point, which is what matters. So let me ask you this now. What are you passionate about? What's a thing that makes you smile out of habit while doing? Or it seems to make time literally fly by while you work for hours on end? What's the action, task, or thing that draws that incredibly strong and barely controllable emotion out of you? Try asking yourself that right now. Try to figure it out. Maybe pause and just have that dialogue and talk with yourself. Go ahead. And for me, I know it may sound very cheesy, but I'm passionate about living life and experiencing the absolute most that I can. I'm passionate about growing and moving forward, cooking, polishing my skills, becoming stronger through things like martial arts and working out. And honestly, I love facing a challenge. I really love facing a challenge. I love the feeling that I get when I meet a roadblock and it stumps me for a while, but when I figure out my way around it, there is no better feeling. I'm passionate about overcoming and facing any challenge in my path, and I think that mindset and my love for martial arts are the two biggest takeaways that I got from watching and reading manga and anime as a kid. From the cartoons that motivated me so much and inspired me, I read about what these characters did in books and watched them on TV. And as I saw their passions, they imprinted on me and they grew as I grew. That love for a simple challenge and to constantly want to test my skills came from hours upon hours of dreaming and thinking about characters beyond myself. I'm thinking of how I should describe it now. When I see a wall in my way, I just love to smirk. It's not like I see an actual wall and just be like, that's a nice wall. No. When I see a challenge, a difficult task ahead of me, I love to think about it and smirk because it's a confident little smirk. It's not arrogance. It's not that I know that I'm going to get through it, but I believe that I will. And it's not because I saw other people do that in my life, but it's because all the characters and heroes and people I saw in books and on TV and online, they did that. They saw a challenge and didn't back down, and it became a habit that I took up too. A hard class, a difficult recipe or dish, a hard level on a video game, a strong team in volleyball or basketball, a strong opponent in real life to face off against, a goal that seems near impossible, but only near and not actually impossible. When I think about any of these things, I can feel my lips just beginning to form a smile. They start to curl into a smirk first, and then it grows into a real smile. This is passion to me. When I was younger, I would imagine this feeling vividly while I was playing either basketball or volleyball, even working out sometimes and just practicing martial arts. That fire, that passion. On the basketball court, running after a ball, I'd feel my lungs pumping, my legs moving and arms running. Every part of my body was just working, and I'm sure any other sports player would know this. We were tired. I mean, my lungs were protesting the entire time going up and down that court. Countless times and trying to give all your effort in each moment of the game. Failing to give 100% of it at times and then reprimanding yourself and saying, okay, I'm going to go harder next time, pushing hard on the next play. During those times when I felt the most tired or overworked, my brain started to really kick into another gear and things would just slow down. And I would observe and I'd be able to think. Now, what would I be thinking about? Well, besides things like what was happening on the court, I'd also notice how my running form is starting to falter. It's not as hard as you might think, just noticing how your pace starts to change and then feeling with each step that you maybe could be a little more firm, maybe a little more fluid. Your knees are starting to feel like jelly, and that's messing with your balance and your stride. Noticing how my breathing was becoming worse, and how tired I was, and how in pain I was. And in those moments, I would be having a dialogue with myself, asking questions about how much I wanted to win, why I was doing all of this, why I was putting myself through all of this pain just for a game. And I tell myself two things. One, because it's fun. And then two, because I want to. It was my choice to do all of this. It was my choice to try this hard, to do this and be on this court. Whenever I feel the most tired, the extra fuel to push through the pain was driven by passion, a love for the moment in the game, the pursuit of strength and the win on the court. I remember it feeling like a fire burning in my chest all the time. It was always a fire, either a small spark or a burning blaze. I always pictured my passion coming alive as a fire burning in my chest, right by my heart. Now, recently when I first came to college, I think that I lost that fire a bit. It wasn't a dramatic change, but looking back, I could see it now. It became very pronounced when COVID hit and I had to move back home, finding something to be passionate about, looking for the challenges in life and wanting to tackle them all. I didn't have anything pulling me forward, if that makes sense. Like, I was being pushed on, yeah. Like, I was doing good in classes, decent enough. I still had my family pushing me forward and everything. I knew that I had to work hard and everything. But I didn't have any other force pulling me along. I didn't have the same passion that I did in high school. And I think a part of that has to do with the honest shift of life from high school to college. It's a very interesting shift. It was like leaving the tutorial and entering the real world and then really starting the game, and you think that you know what's going on, but you're still figuring yourself out. It's not an easy process. I had all the motivation that I needed to complete my classes and whatnot, but it felt very bland in my opinion. Finding something to reignite that fire and excite my passion again took a pretty long time. It took a lot of soul searching and actual growth for me to start feeling it again. But when it came back, I just remembered how much I missed the feeling. That dumb excitement from just living life and new experiences, the confidence to tackle any and all problems that pop up in our way. Just be chasing green, be me. I missed that passion to just live. And I forgot how important it is, but sometimes you have to find a moment to reignite that fire, that small spark. Like, I think that it's simple to live life only driven by our motivations, driven by only what we believe will get us to success. And to that end, the end of the line, to the end of the road. You have something that you're reaching towards and reaching out to when you grasp it, your motivation. That's simple to live life like that. And it's easy to forget that a harmonious life isn't one only made by motivations. Harmony is found when you balance multiple principles that govern life. One of those principles that I found is between motivation and passion, what drives you to success and then drives you by love, or even stupidity, if that makes sense. And that brings me to what I want to say. Learn about what motivates you, and then learn what makes you feel passionate. A part of the reason I made this podcast was to open up a more passionate side of mine. I wanted to stop being scared of doing and actually just do it. I wanted to honestly tell people my views on life. That's why I named this podcast The Journal of a Huntsman, and all things that I'm telling you are things that I try to practice in my own life, and it's helped me. So hopefully, in some way, shape, or form, it might help you too. That's the honest goal for me. That's the thing that I want the most right now. I love helping people. It's kind of another passion of mine. Whether it be intentional or unintentional, I hope that someone gains something from this. Well, that's all I really had to say. But thank you again for sticking with me and then listening to this episode. Next time, I think I'm going to be talking about perspectives as well as manhood, what it means to be a man, and then how I've noticed it changing and developing lately. It may not be the same format as the first two episodes, but you'll still be hearing what I gotta say. Now, everyone, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.